Hey guys, it's me, Marie. Welcome back to my channel. Today we're doing another book versus movie. This time it is We've Always Lived in the Castle by the fantastic Shirley Jackson. I've been doing a gothic horror read-along on my channel over on Instagram, where basically every month for the next, well, for the rest of the year, we are reading a different piece of classic gothic literature. And last month's was April. April's was We've Always Lived in the Castle by Shirley Jackson. Fantastic book. What I want to do, rather than do a review of the book, is slightly different, and it is to look at the book and then the recent movie adaptation from 2018 starring I can't pronounce this girl's name. I'm terrible at pronouncing names. Taissa Farmiga, Alexandra Daddario, Crispin Glover, I know him, and Sebastian Stan are the main stars. If you're unfamiliar with the story of this, it basically is about two sisters, one called Maricat, one called Constance, who live alone with their uncle, who is doting with age now. He's starting to lose his memory and things like that. He's disabled. And they are there alone now after their entire family was murdered. And Constance was the one who got the blame, and she went to court, but she was eventually acquitted. And, you know, now we cut to them a year later, still living in the family house, trying to kind of get on with things, but everybody in the town kind of hates them. And Constance is sort of agoraphobic, afraid of the outside world after the whole court case thing. And then Maricat, she sort of stayed in an almost childlike state, believes in magic, carries out spells, that kind of thing. And then one day their cousin Charles shows up out of the blue, hasn't seen them in years, very interested in the contents of the safe, what's worth money around the house, things like that. And he's kind of trying to seduce Constance. And Maricat sees him as a threat and wants to eliminate that threat. So that's kind of the storyline. Rather than reviewing the book and reviewing the movie, what I'm going to be looking at is the differences between the two and whether they were successful changes. So I'm basically not reviewing the movie so much as I'm reviewing it in the sense of an adaptation. What did they change? What did they keep the same? And did it work or not? I've had confusion with that in the past. It's not actually a review, like a standard, oh yeah, it was a good film or not. It is a review of it as an adaptation, if that makes sense. So there are three main changes between the book and the movie. This has spoilers away, by the way, so spoiler alert if you haven't read the book, if you haven't seen the movie. Well, you haven't seen the movie, much of the muchness with the book, but there are three changes, as I said. So pause this, go away, watch it, read it, come back, and then you can pick up where you left off. So three main changes. The first change is the fact that the reasoning behind the family's murder back in the day is much more obviously laid out for the viewer. In the book, it doesn't really go in depth with why the family were murdered. You do find out who killed them. It was the youngest daughter, Maricat. She put arsenic in their sugar, knowing that her sister doesn't take sugar in her dessert and that all the others would, and that they would all die. The uncle Julian, who lives with them, he had only a tiny amount of sugar, and now he is suffering from arsenic poisoning, so that's why he's disabled, and that's why his mind is kind of going. So in the book, there's maybe very, very subtle hints. Maricat has real issues with the concept of punishment. The evening of the party where everybody died, she was punished and sent to her room without her supper. And she has a real issue with being punished. And there's a kind of slight, a very subtle hint that there may have been some kind of abuse on the father's part towards Maricat, and that is why she acted in the way that she did, killing them all, and her mum and everybody else with them. Whereas in the movie, they make that connection much stronger. There is a point where cousin Charles is physically kind of dragging Maricat upstairs because she's been so badly behaved, and he kind of wants to punish her, and he's dragging her upstairs, and she starts saying, "No, father, please stop, father, please stop." So it is made very clear there that there was some violence on his part. And at the end, when Constance and Maricat discuss the murder for the first time, which is when it is revealed in both the book and the movie that Maricat was in fact the killer, Constance in the movie adaptation says that their father was a very wicked man and that he was very wicked to both her and Maricat. So there was obviously physical abuse on both of them there. I'm not sure if it's just violence or if there's a sexual element to it, based on the fact that Maricat has sort of stayed in this sort of very childlike state, which is the same as the book, and the fact that Constance is kind of one of those smiling, everything's fine, everything's okay, everything's fine, and is clearly repressing her feelings. I imagine there was a sexual element. That's the kind of reaction that we see psychologically from this. I'm not an expert or anything, but just from reading books and things like that, that kind of hints at it for me. And again, that hints at it in the book. It's just not as overt in the book. So that's one of the major changes. I think that was the right change to make. I loved reading the book, and I kind of liked when I was reading it that the possibility that she killed him just because they put her to bed without her dinner for being a naughty girl, that she just was like, oh, well, screw you, I'm going to poison you all. I kind of like that in the book, but I don't think that'll necessarily work in a movie. It's important for viewers to connect and empathize with the main protagonists in a film, and you're not going to have the hugest amount of sympathy for Maricat. She's not the most affectionate, emotional character. She's very stern-faced. She never smiles. She's just she's always looking down, always kind of hunched over, softly spoken. You know, she clearly has issues, as she does in the book. It's maybe not as easy to kind of connect with her, this strange little magical believing child. I think it would be even harder to do so if she turned out to just be a cold-hearted sociopath. I think it makes a lot more, a lot better viewing if you actually do connect with and empathize with that character and see her as almost like a hero protecting her sister. She killed her dad because he needed to be punished, essentially. The second change is the way that Uncle Julian dies. In the book, Uncle Julian, in the book and the movie, he dies at the end of the film. But what happens is the town goes mental and they just trash the house, smash it. You know, after the fire, they just have at it and all their hate comes out and they just trash the place. And Uncle Julian dies in the fire. He breathes in the smoke. Whereas in the book, the doctor pops by to let them know that the fire didn't kill him, that he in fact had heart failure, whether that was brought on by, you know, the fire and everything else that was going on, you know, when they know, but that it was something that was inevitably coming and it was just his time. In the movie, they make it very clear that he does die of smoke inhalation from the fire. And again, I'm all right with that change. I liked that change. I think, again, it would have been necessary because it gives much more of an emotional impact on the end result of the fire and on the repercussions of all of the townspeople breaking into the property, because Uncle Julian fled to his room and locks his door to try to protect his notes, his research on the family murders. He believes he's solving the case, doesn't know the murderer's living in the house with him, and he wouldn't have done that if the townsfolk hadn't have attacked the house, essentially. So I think it makes it much more powerful when the townsfolk then feel their remorse. It's much more understandable that they do than necessarily in the book, where they just feel bad about damaging the property and smashing the chairs and the windows and stuff like that. In the movie, they inadvertently cause somebody's death. I say inadvertently, they literally like looted a house. Anyway, the third major change is Charles's ending. So in the book, Charles, he tries to get into the safe when everybody's rampaging around the house, tries to get into it, can't, and then he just buggers off and leaves them all there. He's been trying to seduce Constance the whole time, trying to look after everybody, and he just leaves while they're getting essentially attacked by the entire town. He does that in this film, but then he comes back, and when he comes back in the book, he comes back to apologise. It's clear he still wants the money, but he also feels guilty because it was his pipe that started the fire. He doesn't necessarily know that Maricat gave that pipe a nudge into the paper basket, but he's the one who started the fire in his mind, and Uncle Julian has died as a result, so he feels bad as well. So it's not just about the money. In this, he comes back and he's very much cut in this from the same cloth as their father. They, in both the book and the movie, they constantly draw comparisons between Charles and the father because he looks exactly like him. He's wearing his suits, he's smoking from his pipe, he's sleeping in his bed, he's wearing his watch. He's basically just walks in and he's like telling Constance what to do, man of the house, all this sort of stuff. It's ugh. So in this version, in the movie's version, he takes on the same role as the father, which the movie has given the father, which is a violent role, an aggressive, oppressive role. And he comes back, kicks the door in, attacks Constance, and Meerkat stoves his skull in with with a snow globe, and that is that. They bury him in the garden, hide his car, and bye-bye Charles. In the book, he just drives away when they don't answer the door, when he's trying to apologise and ask about the money. He just gives up and drives away. So, probably not as necessary as the other two changes. I think it would have been fine to keep it the way that it was. But I do understand as well that there's a certain amount of pacing and drama that you need to kind of maintain in a movie to keep interest. So that did add another element of threat, another element of suspense. Also, it meant that he just got his comeuppance, which is maybe much more satisfying from a viewing perspective. I think with books, you can get away a lot more with kind of unsatisfactory ending, but it's satisfactory, if that makes sense. It's okay for there to be no conclusion, for you never to find out why X, Y, and Z was happening, why this place was haunted, what led to this, what led to that. And Shirley Jackson has done this in other books. In her in The Haunting of Hill House, she never reveals why the house is the way that it is. You know, where is the haunting coming from? Was the main protagonist genuinely being driven mad by the house, or was she just mad to begin with and the house was kind of a like precipitation to it? You never really find out, and that can be kind of unsatisfying in certain adaptations if you never get all the answers, if you don't get every of storylines all wrapped up. So I can understand why when they make movie adaptations they make those changes. And to be completely honest, it was rather satisfying seeing Charles getting his comeuppance. So I didn't mind that change. I don't think it was as needed as the other two, but I did enjoy it. The director is a woman, and I think it's evident when you're watching the film. She certainly is very nuanced with the characters, and that's something that you definitely need with Shirley Jackson. Something that was very successful with The Haunting of Hill House adaptation as well on Netflix. So yeah, overall, great adaptation. Apart from those three main changes, the story is basically the way that it is in the book, and it stays very true to the book. It definitely respects the source material, and I'm always comfortable with changes as long as those changes are made to further it, and with the respect of the source material in mind, and for necessary reasons. For changing this to something that you watch rather than read, changes are going to be necessary. I get that, and I think this was a very successful adaptation, so definitely recommend the book. It's fantastic, and I definitely recommend the adaptation as well. All the actors are incredible in it, fantastic, everybody is amazing, and they perfectly encaptured the characters from the book. The director's great, the mood that is created and the atmosphere is very in line with the book, and yeah, it's a very successful adaptation. So that's it, guys. Have you seen the movie? Have you read the book? What did you think? Let me know in the comments down below. I always love to hear your opinions. And if you could subscribe as well, that would make my day. Thank you. And leave a little like, do all those wonderful things, connect with me. That's why we're here, and that's me for now. Bye.